All right, looks like we are live for the day. Welcome back to Mission Top. And this is one of our special Friday episodes where we get the more feminine side of Mission Top to join us. Sarah, I'm Gary. Mission Top is a farmstead and ranch, but it's also our family. And it's a place of Philia Sophia, which means a love of wisdom, a pursuit of wisdom, you could say. Not so much a pursuit, as philia means a friendship relationship with wisdom, and that's what we try to develop here in many ways. And today we're going to talk about one of those things that has been very much related to that friendship, love of wisdom, and that is our family practice, or you could even say a ritual of a family council, and why we think this is something that has been beneficial to us, why it's been something we've done for several years, and we're probably going to continue as a pursuit for our entire lives. And we talk a lot about what we can actually talk about on here and have some sense of I don't know if authority is the right word, but like have enough to say that we're willing or we're worthy, I guess you could say, of being listened to. Because in a lot of things with life, we still have a lot of life to live, and we can't claim that we know what life is about and the wisdom of life. But this is one thing that we have been doing for several years and have already seen the fruits born of. And so we were confident that this is something that we could talk about with some, at least some smidgen of authority on that. And so with that, we're gonna, I'm gonna turn it over to Sarah and just kind of, she has not, we have not prepared exactly what she's gonna say in this, so I'm always putting her on the spot when I bring her into these episodes. But I'm going to ask, how would you describe what the family council is and what benefits it does? Just give a summary to start things out.
So the family council is what we do on Sunday afternoon to sort of refocus our family.
I'm going to stop you right there because I forgot. We have one more kind of intro topic. Sorry about that I forgot to get to. And I think, in as much as I'm trying to get Sarah on here on a weekly basis, we can't promise that. But I thought we should always start off with what has been going on at Mission Top during this last week.
Oh, yes, that's what we were talking about last night. We were talking about
how about you start off with that instead? What has been going on that is newsworthy?
It's been a big birthday week. We've had 2 birthdays. That's taken up a lot of our time.
Okay.
But as far as like our farm goes and things like that, we've been taking care of all of these baby chicks, and they're getting bigger and stronger.
Well, they may not remind them of what the baby chicks are and how recent they are and things. Because
as you say, I don't know how much you've talked about.
Only a little.
Okay, so assuming that nobody knows what we're up to, we have like 180 baby chicks now in our garage, and they've been there for almost 2 weeks now. And they are pretty easy to take care of, except for just making sure their temperature stays right and things like that. But they still take constant, like, just checking on and making sure that their water's filled and little things like that.
And they're noisy, which is why I got kicked out of the shop, and we're here more in this office setting to do these streams.
They're noisy, pleasant, though. They're fun.
Yeah, and they're fun to look at.
Yeah. And then,
And what are we going to do with those?
Okay, so maybe 140 of those. It's always hard to think of anything here being killed, but 140 are for meat. And then we have 40 other layers. Okay.
So. And how long until they'll be able to kind of
they'll be by September 1st. Oh, sorry.
What will they be in, and how long will it take to actually get them to that meat process?
Yeah. So in another week, they're getting more and more feathers in. Then they'll be able to go out, and Robbie's constructing chicken tractors. So they'll start going out and have these chicken tractors, and they'll stay in those chicken tractors, sort of like not moving around yet, for 2 or 3 more weeks, depending on how quickly their feathers come in. And then after that, we'll start moving them around just like we do the rest of our things. Every day they'll be in a different spot with new things to eat and explore. So
okay, and so chicken tractors are basically like a shallow kind of square box that is made so they've got some things that hold them in by chicken wire, so they've got nice free-flowing air, but they're in a constrained space, and every day it's a mobile thing so you can move them. And so they are fed in there still, but they can peck around and into the dirt, get bugs, get anything they can eat.
Hopefully
grass.
Get ticks. That's what I'm hoping for.
Hopefully ticks.
Hate ticks.
Not that we have tons here, we've discovered, but
it's always the fear looming.
Yeah, it's a family kind of pet peeve is ticks.
Yeah.
anyway, and those you can also have kind of follow, if once we get cows and stuff, they'll eat the bugs and maggots and things like that out of cow pies. So it's one of these things that's kind of a permaculture system where you get several things working in kind of a symbiotic relationship. And these are pretty famous by this point. Jill Salatin, I think, maybe was the person that pioneered them several decades ago. And so that is what we're doing with those. Just real quick, want to recognize Christian. Thanks for reaching out and saying hi on the chat. Glad to have you here. Okay, so we got the chickens going. And what else?
The other big thing is that finally there's enough grass that we're really moving the sheep and the goats around. And so that's been a lot more work because the kids are really in charge of that right now with some guidance from you and I, but they're moving them around and trying to figure out how to do all of that with the electric fencing. And then we have just the 2 fields of the main herd and then the rams and the billy. But the most exciting thing that happened is we've had 3 baby lambs born this week. And any week with a baby lamb is a good week. And they're all doing well.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. They're spunky little lambs. We had a fear with one of the mamas, kind of a very young mama, and she wasn't feeding her at first, but luckily she did. It almost seemed kind of like a reluctant teen pregnancy or something. It really
did.
And she had to be coaxed into being a mother.
Robbie had to hold her so that she would let the baby nurse, and now whenever Robbie walks out there, she just stops and lets the baby nurse. It's great.
And
Robbie's
so
laying down the law.
It's worth mentioning with that, as far as really turning things over to the kids, because if you see the videos through the winter, I was really helping the kids with the sheep, and now I've kind of taken a hands-off approach. And we can't say that everything's just perfect harmony in that transition. But we've been talking about this in recent days, and that's actually was the whole design behind getting these animals and having our children take responsibility for them, is that things have to be learned, mistakes have to be made, and that's one thing that's really tough from a parent perspective. Is letting your kids face real world consequences that may even mean animals suffering in health or hopefully we hope not, but something dying if the kids are ever neglectful, right? But those are the kind of real world things that actually teach you, right? And so anyway, of course we're here for guidance with our kids, but that has been a learning experience for them and us, as we have to kind of hold ourselves back from just always helping with things, and then they have to learn how to work with each other, which is not easy for at least our kids to do.
Well, yeah, it's definitely really hard, and it's hard because I as a mom want to when they're uncomfortable, I want to go out and help them, and I want to help everything go easier and go better. But then sometimes that just makes a lot of other things fall apart. So that's a beautiful entry into what we're going to talk about today. Cause
it actually has to do a lot with the family council. And, and another thing that we always want to convey, which is that, our family, we're never in our decision to kind of share things with the world, I guess you could say, through YouTube and whatnot. We're never trying to present ourselves as having achieved some great perfection or being good in any way. If anything, we want to show the process, of having to share with you our process of trying to make things better, in as much as there are so many, flawed things like our children not knowing how to work with each other and whatnot. So it's worth sharing that, just so you don't ever think that we are ever trying to take a stance of, we've got it all figured out and we're going to, share and imbue our wisdom out to the world. That's never the position we want to take.
Well, and that's the reason why I like talking about what we're talking about today, because it's all about just kind of something that we're trying that's working, but it's not necessarily, I don't know. It's just something that is working for us, but it's not like we're all amazing people for doing it.
Yeah.
So.
Also, thanks for Serge Anima for saying hi on there. Welcome. And anybody else that's on there. Hey, Randy LeBron.
Hey.
All right. Name. Glad you could be here and join us. So anyone, you're all welcome through the whole presentation to drop comments or questions, things that might help clarify, or just anything on any topic. That's why the chat's there, and everyone feel free to use it if you want to. Okay, so family councils. Well, to learn to lead things off with what the family council is for us, I think there's kind of a principle that it's worth laying out there, and it's the same kind of principles I'm always sharing on these streams that have to go to the very heart of what I've been presenting in terms of the temple presentations, in terms of anything to do with meaning or the way that the world is structured. There's these two kind of forces in the world, spirits, you could say, that seem to be in everything in the world. And that's, more of a masculine spirit and more of a feminine spirit. There's different ways of saying that. There's one saying more of an ordering principle and a renewing principle, right? And so it's very much the same with the family council. The family council is trying to bring together those two things, where we're trying to give our family enough structure and order through this family council, but also we're trying to give it this other complementary, more feminine principle of renewal in our family, in recognizing that our family is a living, breathing, growing organism, and so things have to be broken down and renewed, reestablished in different ways in order for the family to grow. And so you're going to see throughout the whole what the family council is for us, how we've tried to put in those principles into it, things that help us to give us a structure and a vision and goals and things like that, but also things that help us to reorder things over time, to break things down that aren't working, and to allow for change to always be a possibility on a constant basis in our family, and have those kind of two forces in a correct kind of harmony or balance, right? So it's worth kind of laying those out at the beginning so that hopefully you can see them throughout what we do for a family council.
And that sounds like really intimidating, but it's just really easy.
Yeah, in practice. Okay, so that's worth mentioning. Like, maybe
we don't talk that way during our family council at all.
We don't. And maybe share how long our family councils have been, because that's, how much our kids can take.
Yeah, pretty much. Because if you exhaust it too much, nobody likes to be there. It's miserable if it goes on too long. And sometimes we only have a little bit of time, so we have to do like the sweet and condensed version where it's just real quick and concise. Mm-hmm. But usually, what would you say? Half hour tops?
Half hour tops, yeah.
Half hour tops. And then after that, you're going to lose people, and it's not going to be effective at all.
Yeah, and sometimes as short as 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And if we were doing this and we only had toddlers or things like that, we would still do it.
Yeah.
But given it's us, maybe it would be longer because they're not even listening yet. But in as much as you have a participating child, you have to adjust it to the attention span of the child. And so it could be 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we think the important thing is that you do it. And I also think it is important that even a married couple start doing this.
But I think, even an individual.
Yeah, even an individual.
Because we've done this more, even a little bit within our church, but mostly just kind of, we've been doing things like this with our kids as well, individually.
Yeah, and in fact, I sometimes fall out of it, but I try to do a process like this with myself every week.
You used to be really good about that.
Yeah, and I've tried to get back into it. Sometimes I fall out. So, once again, sharing how there's no semblance of perfection in any of this.
Nope.
But the basic idea of the family council is getting the family together in order to counsel about things, which at the very least should be essentially what you're trying to head towards as a family, and what's been going good and what's been going bad. That's how I would explain it.
No, exactly. That's how it always starts. Well, you always start with our family mission. Right?
Which is kind of where we want to head towards.
Okay, and so then we review hopefully as quickly as we can, just talk about something that's gone well in the week and something that we think has gone bad. And this is a nice chance for everyone to be able to kind of say things that they noticed through the week. Because everyone has to give quick, short. We have later on in our family council time for people to kind of bring up anything they want to. But this is more focused, good and bad things that have been going on.
Yeah, so Sarah's already kind of jumping through our order of what we do in it to kind of bring out these principles. So I'm going to back us up and take things a little bit more structured at a point. So the first thing is how we start our family council, and here's the other principle: everyone can do this in the way that works for them. Yeah. And ours has developed and changed over time. Again, that's part of the principle is to allow for constant development. So what I would recommend is start with something, and then over time, find out what works and adjust according to what works with your family and what doesn't, and what age people are, and et cetera. So what we do now, this is our present form, is we start out by having somebody say our family mission.
Yeah.
And so here's where we
and
have
everyone
we do
gets
have a
called
family
on and
mission.
gets to take turns so that
takes
everyone
turn each
actually
week.
knows it.
And so they have to say what the family mission is, but not just kind of state it, but they have to say, what does it mean?
Well, first we had to come up with it.
Yeah.
Because that took like a long time to kind of come up with it, and it's still always being a little bit tweaked here and there.
It took a couple weeks to even come up with the family mission. And here's again where I would say come up with something and then just work on it over time. But your family mission can be like, that thing of what does your family exist to do? What are you heading toward? What's the broadest, statement of what your family is and what it cares about? And that's hard to come up with. So what I'd recommend is start out with something. And we lead out with it each week, but it could be as simple as like, well, we can't come up with anything else, so our family is, our family kicks butt. That's our mission, right? And you have somebody state that each week, and after a little bit, you'll get bored of it and say, no, we're more than that, aren't we? And we're a family that kicks butt and cares for other people or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And so that becomes the thing, and over time, it will change. So would you like to share what ours is?
I was afraid you were going to say that.
Yeah, I'll put you on the spot.
I have to read it.
You have to? Oh, no, I'm gonna hold you to it. You've got to try to do it. Because here's the other thing, I would recommend it be short, or else nobody will ever remember it.
Well, it's like I know, it's just I always miss up a word. So to start me off. Cultivate agape, while on the way to becoming.
Not to becoming.
On the way to the divine family.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the word I always mess up.
Okay, so it's to cultivate.
I'm embarrassed.
Our mission is to cultivate agape while on the way to the divine family.
Not in the way, on the way.
Yeah. So we've debated that, right, as a family. Should it be in the way? Should it be on the way? And things have changed over time. But we're not going to go into explaining exactly our family mission, just that we have one, and that it's always in process. That's the important thing about this family council. Everything is always in process. But for most weeks, that's what it is. And then every once in a while, we'll say, you know what? Something is missing here. And guess what? Just last night, I was talking with Sarah about this, and it came to me, I think there's something else we should put into this. Yeah. And so I'm going to propose that to the family at our next family council. And it would be that the mission then be to cultivate agape and philosophia while on the way to the divine family. And so I want to add that philosophia, as much as that matters to me. Sophia being wisdom and developing that friendship, love of wisdom. So I'm going to propose that to the family, and hopefully it gets added in. But I just wanted to show you how this, we've had this for months and months, but and maybe even over a year, at least some form of it. But it can change just this very week. But
it's worth adding that when you do call on different people to say it, and we won't go into it right now, but they do need to explain what it is we're trying to go towards. I'm not sure if you said that, because those are a lot of big words, especially for young kids. Like maybe Thomas understands more of it and Robbie a bit, but those are kind of, they're words that need reminding. We have to say it in different words for the younger kids to understand. Yeah. So...
Also saw that Farzad is on here, and welcome, and glad you could catch us live, and also Martin. So thanks you everyone for being here. Again, always welcome your questions and comments.
Yeah, definitely.
But as far as the family mission, that's a very important part, that we have somebody explain it, because these things are they're hard, and it takes time to get them succinct, to be able to explain them succinctly. And then the kids, it forces them to have to deal with the concepts. What do they actually mean? So that's our first thing. And then we launch into another very simple thing, but we just say what went well this week as a family, and what didn't go well as a family.
And sometimes people are like holding it, like, I'm going to bring up what's bad. I'm going to bring it up at family council. I know it just because it's a moment to kind of get something off their mind. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we kind of maybe say one or two or three things and decide what went well, what went bad. That's supposed to be pretty quick.
And this seems, so simple and so inconsequential, but it's actually, this might be like, the most important part, in as much as most families never communicate these kinds of things ever, right? Or they burst out, they burst out at moments, especially the bad things.
Yeah, and I was going to say, we try to communicate how to effectively help our kids phrase or say what's bad in a way that's actually effective, not just like, I just hate it here. It's like...
I think I actually got this one from a book that was kind of like what was it? It was that one.
I have it up in my cupboard. I mean, the
do you want to go try to
families.
Yeah, do you want to go try to find it real quick? Because I'm always trying to share good books.
Yeah,
but this one had a few good principles in it, and I recognized that this is something that, through research was discovered, even with business meetings and things like that. This simple act of just recognizing, here's what's going well, here's what hasn't gone well, actually has a tremendous impact on any organization or yourself. And so in as much as the family is an organization, we can always do that. And again, even your smallest children will know how to do this, right? It's within their capabilities. All right, we can't find it, so
I think it's actually
right.
in the car. I'll
have to recommend it at a different time, but it's a decent book, and I just can't remember the exact title of it. So anyway, so that is the first thing we do, and we're only maybe 2 minutes in to the whole thing at this point, hopefully. So again, this is not very long. So then the next thing we do, and again, we've had different iterations of all this, but this is the one that's kind of
stuck the longest.
Yeah. We decide for this next week, so we do this on a weekly basis. For this next week, what are we going to pray for something to do with our family?
Yeah.
And what are we going to pray for something to do outside of our family, or for something in the world that kind of lies outside the domain of our family?
Yeah.
And okay. And I guess we should say, some people don't have a practice of prayer, and this is still one I'm even trying to figure out. In as much as our religious tradition has kind of a format of prayer, but when you look out in the world, there are so many different formats of prayer. I actually don't think it's so much the format of the prayer that matters, but that you do something where your family. Think of the power of this. So each day we have several moments of family prayer, right? Where you are basically just trying to say, we're trying to kind of express ourselves as a family aligned with some higher divine, principle other than our family, and try to usually discern what this thing greater than our family would want, and kind of give ourselves a focus, So this is what we do several times a day, and in as much as we have these things for the week that we're praying for as a family, I hope you can just sense that has tremendous impact.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's
like real world impact.
No, it is. It helps the kids think about it. They have to remember it, and then it also helps them. Like when you're saying a prayer and you're praying to God, they have to kind of pray for it and think about it in context of how they'd be talking about it with God, which usually puts everyone in the right frame.
Yeah. And so even things that you'd say, like we couldn't, because sometimes we might pray for something, outside of our family, like a relative that lives far away, or even, something that will, something in the nation will go well, or something like that, or that'll avoid some catastrophe or something like that. You say, well, how could that possibly have an effect? And some people that are religious will be like, oh, they do, because kind of believe in these unseen powers and things like that. Yeah. But even if you're not religious, I hope you can see that, like a family of 10 people, for, this is going to end up being 30, 40 times a week.
Yeah.
Turning their mind towards some principle, like maybe they're praying for the welfare of their nation in some, maybe there's a war going on or something like that. That will have an effect out in the world. That will have an effect in the way the family behaves, in the way they talk, in the way they influence other people, which then has that effect out in the world. Like, I don't care how you look at prayer, it will have an effect. And so, in as much as you focus down some things as a family that you're going to hit, in that kind of mindset of prayer again and again and again in a week, you will be amazed how much the things that you pray for end up, happening or being influenced by your family and the way that it's doing things that way.
Yeah, no, and that's well said. But I was gonna say, like, spiritually speaking about it, it's also nice that I like to teach our kids how everything in the world can be spiritual and be important to us spiritually and to God. So it's kind of a nice little teaching moment there.
And it also helps see that, we are focused on our own welfare, but there's a sense in which we aren't just our family.
Yeah,
right? We are part of these broader levels of being that we're always talking about on here, that involve, your community, your extended family, your nation, and the world. And we try to show them we must turn our mind into all those other levels of being, in order to successfully operate and find meaning in this world. So that helps too.
Yeah.
All right, moving along. Then we go to, we've added this one recently.
Yeah, so this one we're still like totally in the process of seeing if it will work.
Yeah, and that's where some of these things get added in, and then they don't work over time, or they just kind of drop out of favor, and we'll remove them.
Those other things been there for a long time.
Yeah, the first 4 things, but this thing we just barely added, and we identified one thing will for sure get done this week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a little accountability, because we have so many things to do here that aren't pleasant, fun things to do. But if we make that goal as a family and try to work towards that together, we can kind of prod and help each other along a little bit more than just the regular jobs that need to be done. Kind of like, this needs to be done by Sunday.
Yeah, I think this one brings in the principle of incremental progress too, because again, on this farmstead and this project we've taken on, there is literally an endless list of things to do that we want to do and feel like we should do.
Yeah.
And so very easily you can every week get none of them done because you're overwhelmed with which even one to do first or thing like that. So this forces you to say, here's one thing we'll get done this week. This week is that we have these big piles of spent straw that have been hanging by our shop
since January or February
for months now, and they don't look good, and they're they're a little bit stinky. And so we said, okay, this week, the one thing we're going to get done is we're going to get those moved out of there. We're going to put a lot of them with the pigs and see if they can root them up and turn them more into something more like soil. And whatnot. But anyway, the important thing is that's the thing we identified for this week.
But it's working this week.
Yeah, it's getting done, and we need to finish it off probably today or tomorrow as a family. One big final push.
Yeah.
And then at least that week you can say, okay, as a family, we progressed in this one thing. So it has to be something. The key thing, though, is it has to be something you will do.
Yeah.
Because if you put these up and 3 weeks in a row you don't do it, then your
kids just stop paying attention. It just is not effective anymore.
Yeah, you start losing that power, that confidence in your family to get things done.
And that's what we bring up with the kids when we choose what we're going to do, because we say, okay, this has to be something that we really have been wanting to get done and thinking about. It can't just be something kind of out there.
Yeah, their sense has to be a buy-in by everybody. That okay, yes, we'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got that. Then we jump into we have some long-term goals.
Yep.
Just a couple. We've learned that if you have too many goals, they will not get done.
Yeah, for a while we had too many goals.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, wait, wasn't that our they didn't know what the goals were.
Yeah. We've done this in a different way where we did have kind of some long-term, what we call them long-term focuses, and we'd read them every week, and then maybe some more kind of like 3-month kind of focuses, and those did have their effect. But for now, we're playing with kind of even getting more simple than that, and just having like one main goal for the year as a family, and then so we'll start with that. So this year, our main goal as a family was to make videos, to make 50 videos in a year. I don't think we've ever done that in a year, and it's obviously my main pursuit. And that was before I decided to do these live streams. And so it was to do 50. That was roughly one video a week.
That seemed like a big goal at the time.
It was.
Whoa, 50 videos.
And so every week we started then saying how many videos have been made and how many should have been made by this point. And you see how that little weekly reminder of accountability was a big thing in order to get it done. Well, then we decided to do these live streams, and now we're going to knock this one out of the park. So we're almost, we're getting close to completing this one, and it'll be great because then we'll say, wow, look, in 4 months, we knocked that goal out as a family, because these videos do end up being a family
event
affair in so many ways, and the kids from time to time make their own, like last week or the week before that.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're almost done with that one. So what will we do then? We'll just set another one, right?
Exactly.
And then we'll have some sort of accountability with it each week. So one goal. Again, in the past we've done more, but there's something to just, of course you have more things that you're trying to do as a family, but there can be some power to just focusing in on the most important thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we do, we have an exercise and fitness or nutrition goal for the year, because that is something, if you're like any American family out there, that is a struggle.
Yeah.
So what is ours for this year?
Oh, for the year?
Yeah, the one that we're trying to...
The one that we're trying to do, well, it started out as running if you were going to do an ultramarathon with the boys.
Well, yeah, but the whole family participates in it, right?
Well, right. So with that, we kind of figured out that would be something that they could kind of really take on. But obviously, that wasn't going to work for the younger kids. So right now, like what's our goal right
But
now?
remember, that is still the goal, is to still do it.
Well, right, but so
with everybody doing as much. Well, we did set out the. See,
I'm sorry.
Here's where
No,
again,
I mean, what we're doing this week is everyone's just making what we account for on Sundays how many miles everyone's run.
Okay. But we're okay. So then this is where we need to clarify as a family. This is where this is what the family council would eventually have to clarify. We started out with the goal of saying everybody's going to do a 50 miler, but of course everyone's going to do what they can do. So like Sarah and some of the older kids were going to do half marathon. The older boys were going to try to do the whole 50 miler with me, etc. But then, because of events, that became difficult to do on the time frame we wanted to. So what we still have that as the goal, and that's what we need to clarify.
See, that's what we need to clarify, because I thought that the goal just turned into, we want to get that done, but we didn't have a specific date for it anymore. Yeah,
and so in order to try to make progress toward it, what we've turned it into is accounting for how many miles we run or walk at total as a family each week. So it's quantified here, and so we're trying to make sure that number is increasing, because ultimately, for me to be in shape to run a 50 miler, I need to be doing at least, probably some weeks with 50 or, 40, 50 miles in them, and the boys too, and the other people doing less. So like last week, the total miles in the family was 45. But the week before that was like 40. So, incremental progress. You're building up.
This week will be better than last week.
And that's the important thing about putting these and renewing kind of your commitment each week.
It does help you get out there, though, when you start to realize that it matters. Like yesterday, I really didn't want to go. It had gone on so long, but I'm feeling like I got to do it, because our numbers are going to look bad.
And with other people, that's where you get this reinforcement, the power of the family, of the family joining in a council and saying, we're going to do this together. You're able to take on these bigger kind of goals, and you can help each other have the accountability for it, right? Okay, next, then we have what a lot of our kids have come to seem to really enjoy, and that is we have an open forum, but with kind of a constrained amount of time, maybe 5 minutes, because it can get out of hand.
It can get out of hand. Yeah, well, so especially because on the farm, we're always dealing with these new situations with each other, and sometimes they get so complicated or so complex, like people's jobs will kind of parallel each other, and they have to learn how to work together better. And so we'll say, bring problems, not necessarily farm problems, but bring your problems with the family.
Interpersonal problems.
To the open forum. Yeah. And there you're encouraged to share things that have been on your mind, even if it's just for yourself, a problem that you're having personally, or things that you're noticing in our house that aren't running as well. They can range from things like, this week, a lot of the forks were really dirty. They weren't getting cleaned well enough, and that was just bugging me, to, other things like, I noticed that Kira kind of needs a little more attention this week or something like that, for a bad example, but like that.
And this is one of the ways that we try to minimize conflict or have an outlet for conflict in our family, in as much as, again, we're 10 people and there is conflict, constantly, every day. And so what we try to do is to have people not try to resolve things in, emotion and anger in the moment, because of course that never works. When people are arguing and fighting over something, that never works. So what we'll do is say, guys, first of all, we try to have areas of responsibility. So at the end of the day, somebody gets to kind of, make the choice, especially when it comes to chores and things like that, of how things should work out. But then we say, in as much as you still have a problem and you're not wanting to deal, you can't deal with it effectively right now, bring it to the family council.
Yeah.
That's where, in a more relaxed manner, you can bring up anything. You can you can bring up ways you think the parents are failing. Yep. You can bring up ways that you think somebody else is failing. Of course, you can bring positive things too, but it tends to be a space to work out conflict.
But it's a good thing, and it's not like people aren't resolving things through the week as they go.
Yeah.
It's just certain things that are
bigger things.
Bigger things, or they involve so many people.
They need the parents'
the whole
counsel
family.
on it.
And they can, to clarify, they can talk to us about things all the time, and they do.
Except for sometimes they can't, because, again, it's hard to get your parents' attention when there's this many people in the family, right? So sometimes they do get your attention, but other times you have to say, sorry.
It's true. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, talk to me at the family, bring this up at the family council.
And also you kind of know when things really are important to someone when it's still when they still remembered enough to bring it to the family council.
Yeah.
So a lot of other things will sort of resolve themselves or just go away.
Yeah, a lot of them that they think they're going to bring it once they get to the family council. Oh, okay.
Because maybe they actually weren't that important. And maybe hopefully with all the things that we talked about and kind of the direction and focus we've had with our family, helps some issues just kind of go away because they're like, I'm kind of just being dumb about this or that.
Yeah.
Or even myself. I was going to bring this up, but it's not something we need to bring up.
And yeah, we brought this in maybe more than a year ago, maybe a couple of years ago, something like this. And the reason is that we were noticing that most families, even our own families, like don't have great abilities to talk about things openly. I'd say most families don't. Like a lot of families just kind of operate in a way where they know they can't ever bring up certain things to their parents, to their brothers and sisters, etc. And we're saying, well, that's a skill, right? And if we want our family to be able to do that, we have to practice it.
Yeah.
We have to make a space where we show that it's okay to come and in a reasoned manner, present criticism, and then as a family we deal with it as a family, where you see yourself. And here's one effective thing that we bring up a lot of the time to help solve this is trying to point our kids to the fact that they are part of this greater being of the family. So the brother and sister isn't some enemy over there. The brother and sister is part of them, right? And they are both part of something bigger. They are both the same thing. So why would you want to hurt both the same thing? Instead, you come as a family council and you kind of try to find the way to resolve it so the greater being, prospers, that everybody's part of. And yeah, so this is hard stuff to inculcate into kids, which our world teaches them that they're an all-important individual, which they are, that's true, but they're also more than that. They're part of the family being, and so this is the space to really bring that out.
Yeah, and the hope has definitely been just to keep a channel open that will hopefully last for as long as we're having a relationship with each other, that we can be able to talk about hard things, and more importantly, that more than just talk about them, but come up with ideas, solutions, conclusions, things like that.
Yeah.
So.
I put this image of the Council of Elrond on as for the
hefty
thumbnail
image.
Because
because
in a way that's kind of like our family. There's all different sorts of people, but they're we're coming together into one thing. And anyway, the point. What was the point I was going to bring up about that? It just has vacated my mind. But the important thing that I wanted to bring up with that is that that is kind of the vision of what we want us to be as a family. That family that can grow in this principle of counseling, so that when we are older and everybody has their own separate family units and stuff, we can still do this. It probably won't be on a weekly basis, maybe a quarterly basis, semi-annually, annually, whatever it is. Our family will still be able to come together and say, like, as an extended family, this greater unit that we've become, we can talk openly with each other. We can say, this isn't working, Mom and Dad, the way that you've done this. Once again, because I think most families out there can't do that. Some families are effective to do that. They can argue and bring up things and they work it out and stuff, but a lot of families just don't. And so things simmer and unsaid things just exist within that family organization, and it's it's not helpful.
Yeah, I was going to add to that, but you actually said it very well.
Okay, so after the open forum, which sometimes you just have to shut it down because, of course, sometimes nobody has anything to say.
Yeah, it's not like every week there's these huge things that come up, and a lot of times open forum will be the same issue, like brought up every single week for a month, because it just hasn't quite been solved yet.
Yeah, a lot of things we have to say. This can't be solved in 1 second. We have to recognize there's issues like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing, also a little bit newer, is that we then just assign that somebody's going to go on a date with a parent this week. Again, you have as many kids as us, and it can be very easy for even the parents never to interact that much with the kid in the course of a week or a month or something like that. It just happens. And so noticing that can be the case, we've tried to carve out this space where a kid will just go out for a short amount of time,
well, it's
an
like interacting
hour
on a
or
different
something.
level.
Yeah, just being alone with the parent once a week. And so that means that with 8 kids, you're only going to be able to go on a date with the parent once every two months, roughly. But that's still better than nothing, and just hoping that you'll get meaningful time with your parents. And so we assign that and make sure it happens so that we can then look the next week. Oh, by the way, I should share, like, I keep a kind of a record of all these things.
Yeah,
so I have
which is
my
really,
little notebook here.
It's like crucial for the success of the council.
And this will be great family history someday,
Yeah.
right? To kind of see what the family was going through, what was going on. But I record these things so that the next one I can kind of be looking, and it's kind of like minutes for the next one. This is what we said we'd do last week. This is, what's happening. It's a greater accountability, and it helps you to see how you've developed over time. I can go back, and over a year ago, our family council looked very different in its elements. Now it's this, and that's helpful to also see. So,
and they're really simple notes that you write down, just like little things. It's simple. It's doable.
Yeah. Once again, we can't reiterate enough. This has to be something that you will do, that you don't hate so much.
We've tried more complicated
that you'll do it for a
things.
couple weeks and then you never do it. You have to let it be whatever it can be that you'll actually do. So.
Yeah.
Thank you for Laurent on here now. So again, thanks for everybody saying hello, and we're very happy to have you on here. Again, any questions, please leave them. We'll definitely get to those either in the moment or by the end. We're actually almost to the end of the family council, and so we're hoping this will be nice, because this episode is a little bit shorter than the others, and that's a good thing. We recognize that length is not always good. So,
and I ramble.
Yeah. Okay, so the date with the parents identified. Then, if we have time, this is one of the things that sometimes I'll just leave out altogether, depending on time. I'll have each of the kids, one kid a week, we'll ask them, why are we doing Mission Talk? This is something I put in the last couple months, and just have one kid try to articulate that, because in as much as we've asked this big change of the whole family, and we're doing Mission Top and stuff, again, I come on here and I talk about it and this and that, but it's not like the kids are always listening to these streams.
Right.
So we have to kind of have a sense of, why are we doing this, everyone? And what do how would you explain this to someone? Because people are asking us all the time, why are we doing this? Why did we leave where our family was living and friends and all that and do something else? So in our family council, I'll ask a new person each week to articulate why we're doing that. And it's been helpful, because then it forces them to say, why are we doing this? And new things get brought out. Maybe things that I didn't have in my mind, my kid brings up, and you're like, I like that. That's one thing that I'm going to use. So,
and you can use that so easily just in your family, because not everyone's doing like a farm. every family's doing has other important things going on, and in as much as there's things that need to be talked about that are difficult things to articulate, you can pose those kinds of questions out to your family. So that's just an example of that. Yeah.
Then we move to, and again, this one sometimes doesn't get done for length, but we have a family value that we talk about. So this has been a kind of growing, evolving list as well. Like, I have it actually back at the back of my notebook. I have a list of what I've identified are our family values. Like, these kind of have to be, you kind of have to look at your family over a course of time and say, what are we actually living out? And there are already our values that we want to perpetuate, and what are ones that we aspire to. And of course, again, this can get very out of hand very quick. And so you kind of have to edit over time and see which ones you're actually committed to, which ones you're not. That's
actually one of my favorite parts personally.
Yeah.
Because I really like talking about the things that we hope for our kids, things that we think will help them the best in life. Those kinds of things. It's so nice to have a time to bring it up, because it's not always natural to have that time to talk about what we really see is really important.
Yeah.
So
just to give a couple examples of what our ones are, we have one called The Way, which I've kind of talked about in things, but I'll talk about more at a different time. We have one called No Tragic Mistakes.
Yeah.
So one thing that maybe I'll just talk about that one, because it will just show you kind of the nature of our values. This is one where we've noticed, just observing families, even again our own families, that all families have mistakes, right? Mistakes are part of life. Another word for mistake is sin, right? Everybody sins, everybody misses the mark, and things that they're aiming for, and that is a natural part of life. However, there are certain mistakes, right? Like divorce is one I'd say, substance abuse, those kind of things that oftentimes are just better avoided, and they're better to never have entered into, and primarily because they don't just affect the person that makes the mistake, they deeply affect many people outside of the person that made the mistake.
Yeah.
And so as a family value, recognizing that these kind of mistakes have happened in the world, even in our own, families, we say, let's try to have this as a family value, that because of the way that we see each other as a family, because we see each other as one unit, have agape, this love or care for each other, that we're not going to do anything that's going to fundamentally hurt everybody else. That would be a tragic mistake. Again, something like a divorce, which is something that has to be lived with.
So
Nobody ever gets divorced. If you've noticed,
Yeah.
you have to stay connected to the divorced family and the children in there, and the two families on the other sides of it forevermore in the
Yeah.
whole life. So that would be one where it's like we're trying to inculcate in our family now. We just don't do that to each other, right? Obviously, there are these exceptions that could come out of that because of abuse or
Well, and
something
we
like
talk
that.
about those too, which is nice.
Which of course
But-
leads into who you marry in the first place and what. But anyway, that's a rabbit hole we don't want to go down.
Right.
But you can get the main point on that.
But it is really nice. It's really nice to have those times to feel like you can teach as a family, talk about what's most important. So
Yeah.
I like it when we can keep the family value in.
Okay,
Right.
just to break it up a little bit before we get to like the last thing, which is actually the funnest thing our kids look forward to the most. And
Which is
Christian
odd.
says, do you guys have a date night, time set aside for discussion or similar ritual between the two of you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that could be another episode. Probably be shorter because
It'd be really short.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
at
yes,
the same time,
we
it's
do.
important. But yeah, and actually, we really enjoy it. Today is
Yeah.
actually the date night day.
Yeah. Friday.
And again, the key to that one is we've made it like so that it's enjoyable.
Our kids really look forward to us leaving.
Yeah, we make it so the kids look forward to
Yeah.
us leaving because they get to kind of have a freedom that they don't usually have.
They usually get to watch a movie, and we have a treat prepared for them.
Yeah.
And it's a time that everyone likes.
And so, our basic practice is sometime Friday afternoon to evening, we'll go out and just usually get a meal, is the basic activity. Of course, we can always make an alteration on that,
Yeah.
but get some, food we'll enjoy. And all we
Just 'cause
do
we
basically
really enjoy food.
is do that and talk,
Yeah.
right? And it's that time that again, the dedicated time you have that if you haven't been able to achieve it any other time, you can talk, the two of you.
Yeah, no ears are there, no kids are crying. And by the way, our dates have looked very different through the years. They
Yeah.
have definitely evolved from being just home, closing our doors because we couldn't leave a newborn or something like that, to
Yeah.
it kind of ebbs and flows and goes up and down as our kids' ages allow.
And so that basic practice does so much. Maybe in the episode it would be good, in a different episode to talk about how do you do that and not get bored? How do you keep, the romance alive, the novelty alive in a relationship and stuff? But anyway, that is the basic practice and we enjoy it and we look forward to it.
And I would highly recommend anyone to do it, even though at first it seems hard to make it happen, but then you get into a habit and then you can't live without it.
Yeah, and one thing we'll say, I mean, you kind of already said it, but do it no matter what circumstance you're in. A lot of people say, well, we can't do it because our kid, we can't get a babysitter or
Right.
something like that. We'll
We've
find
been
some
there.
way to do
Still do it.
You get the baby to sleep and you have some ritual, you ritualize this. So at the very least, you identified now we're on a date, even if you haven't left the house, even if the date is identified as watching a movie and eating a meal that you prepare together or something like that. There's always a way to do this. Or I would, once you do have a little bit of money flowing, this is the kind of thing I would spend money on. It's that important.
Yeah.
Hire the babysitter,
Yeah.
or whatnot. And so that you can do this, it's worth it. And then you get into that routine and then hopefully you start enjoying it. And then it's just like, no matter what, we make this happen. If we can't do it on a Friday, we'll adjust. We'll say, okay, let's do it on Wednesday this week because, it's one of our favorite things. Obviously, that'd be tough if a relationship was struggling and you'd have to kind of just do it, as if you do it and you'd find that, I can only have faith that if you're willing to do it on a sustained basis, benefits will still come from it. So, Randy LeBron says, what have you guys done to stay consistent and committed to having family counsel?
Well, it's nice right now because when we don't have family counsel, we have kids that are old enough and we've kind of learned to rely on this as a family as a sort of direction for the week. Like our kids can tell when we don't do it, we just don't feel together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we feel off.
It's
There's
weird.
not a direction for the week.
Because even though sometimes these things are really hard to implement, we finally reached something that has finally come to a point that the family doesn't feel the same when we don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, and see, one thing that makes us realize we haven't done it is that then during the week we don't know what to pray for on a sustained basis as a family, and then we're recognizing,
like,
what do we pray for? We don't have that kind of direction, that kind of thing that gives us a focus, a cohesion for the week, and it's noticeable. So that's come from the fact that it's benefiting, and then you feel the lack of the benefit. So that's one thing, is just by doing it. But I think the other thing that helps is by having the established time of when you're going to do it. We do it on a Sunday. And so, the Sunday is a nice time where everybody's more likely to be home. And if you can, it's nice to do it. And it's in an identified time. We found that the things that most need to be routinized are oftentimes best put into routine around a meal.
This is around food.
Because you're going to eat no matter what. That is so ingrained in human routines.
Very revealing.
And so usually like the family council would come right after a certain meal on a Sunday, right? So that it's there, it's established. That's how we do, we read sacred text every day, every morning, and we do it in the context of the breakfast meal in the morning. And that's where it's most likely to happen, because you're all going to be there for breakfast no matter what. And so if you have this other thing attached to it, it's much more easy to make into a routine and a ritual tied to other rituals. Because food, a family meal, that's another episode we need to do, is how, a family meal is a sacred ritual. And we can kind of identify how it is in the context of what is a ritual, right? And in another time. But so attach another ritual to that ritual.
Yeah, but I mean, life happens. We get busy and things don't happen. So I think I'd go back to kind of what we do sometimes. If we really run out of time and we're going to bed and we do remember that we haven't had it, Gary will just pick just a few things.
Yeah, do
sometimes
the good and the bad and what we're praying for in our family and out. And that's it.
And then
5
just by
minutes.
keeping up that little bit, it allows for... Maybe there's 2 bad weeks that we have that's all we're doing.
Yeah, or you're traveling, or something just
or families in town,
breaks you out of routines.
Happens, But then it's so nice because that just at least keeps your foot in the door, so that you can get back to doing the more regular family council, because that happens all the time. It really does. Life is just that way.
Okay, so the last 2 elements, and these ones the kids, especially the youngest kids, enjoy the most, which is so funny.
I enjoy it the least, but I'm happy they're happy about it.
And so this one we've done for, I don't know, a year and a half, 2 years now, and what we do is we call it the roast.
Yes.
Okay, off of, that concept of like these shows that bring somebody on and roast them, where people just like make fun of them and bring out all their faults in a lighthearted, like fun way. Well, the reason this arose was, again, from this recognition that in, our families, certain things can't be said to people. You can't bring up criticisms to other people. Some families are like that. I'm not saying yours is, but a lot of families cannot bring up, certain things to each other. That it's not a skill that's been developed.
Or at least do it effectively.
Yeah, or there's no forum to do it in. There's no place that's been allowed in that family in which you can bring up problems. And that's a big problem, because maybe you have somebody very dear and close to you who is not developing correctly in life, and you know it, and many people know it, but nobody can actually say it to people. That's so sad, isn't it, right? So, some families have this concept, we're going to have an intervention, with this individual or something like that. And I said, why don't we make it something lighthearted and regular, so that it becomes something that is almost fun to do.
Yeah, I have to add here that I didn't want to do this at first. I felt like it was too negative. I felt like it was just not going to be a good note for our family, but I would retract that. It's turned out to be a very good thing for our family, surprisingly to me.
Okay, so what we do for the roast is that one person in the family gets it each week. So that means that once every couple months, another, that you get roasted as a family.
Kids have little theme songs
and
they sing.
It's become a ritual. So that everybody, when the person comes in, you sing, "Is it you? Is it me? It's the roast of the week." And we don't even know the tune.
But it's like, no, that's
again, these lame things are the things that become fun for people. Or they'll say,
"This
people.
Is the roast." There's just all sorts of things that go along with this.
And usually some sort of fire is involved. Like if there's a fireplace, then first of all, the way we used to do it is we'd say what that person. So that
Wait,
person has
okay,
to leave
has
first
to leave,
of all.
and go far
Then-
away, so
then-
we all know we're
yeah.
safe to talk about.
Then the
that.
family counsels and identifies something the person has been doing very well, and then something they need to improve on. At least that's the way we were doing it up until a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So the person would come back, and then we sing the song,
Yep.
and then we tell them, okay, here's what you've been doing well. And we give them like a sincere compliment. What the family agrees has been their strongest thing lately.
Yeah.
And then this is the kid's favorite part. I say, now we're turning up the heat. And so that's when like the fireplace gets lit or a candle or something like that.
Or something lame like that, yeah.
And so there's this heat, and that's where the family brings up one thing that this person needs to improve, that everybody agrees is like the biggest thing in their life right now that needs to be improved, right?
Right.
And so and lo and behold, people take it, and it's fun. Like so the smallest
Like I said,
members
like,
of the
I
family
don't
are
always
like
enjoy being roasted,
every week the smallest member of the family, is it my turn to be roasted? And it's like, nope, you're still 3 weeks away.
And I'm sure they just like the attention too, but like even the older kids totally take it.
Yeah.
And I am baffled
because
by that.
we've tried to create the forum where the criticism comes in the right setting, and so we've even changed it again as everything develops in this.
Yeah,
and so now what we do is we give the roasted thing first.
first.
We turn up the heat first and have the fire going, and then we blow it out.
Yeah.
We turn it off. And then we give them the thing. So we end on a high note,
Yes.
right? We end on an uplift with them of the
discount.
thing that they've been doing exceptionally well for that week. And so this has become a vital part of our family council, and hopefully it will improve. And again, the parents get roasted too, and that's probably one of maybe the most valuable thing.
It really is.
It gives your kids. You see this in kingdoms and stuff like that, right? Kingdoms would have these kinds of places where the jester or the fool, there'd be a place where the fool can mock the king, and bring out the king's weaknesses. Or you hear this, like in Jordan Peterson bring this up in the Mesopotamian rituals. They had this time where a king had to go outside of the city gates and like confess all his ways that he didn't embody the kind of the spirit of the god above him that year. Like they're so important to have these things. Farzad said, the roast is such a good idea for creating. It's like providing constructive feedback with a fun twist, because in most families people are afraid to point out faults because they don't want to hurt feelings.
Yeah.
Creating honesty. Yes, and that's how it's worked out for us. Exactly. So once the roast is done, then we end the family council, and we do that with a family song, kind of this cheesy family song that I wrote a few years ago. I think it's
many years ago.
Yeah,
that was a long.
Like
We've had it for a
5,
long
6
time.
years ago. It needs a revamp. Actually, we
It
put it to the tune of Barca's.
It was at the height of soccer in our family.
when soccer was like the main
most
thing
important
going on in
thing,
the family. So I
yeah.
put it to the tune of Barca's, fight song, the Todo el campo, cha cha cha, da da da, cha cha cha.
Which is a great tune.
Da, 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 da. So we do this kind of fun song, and again, even the little toddler kids that have not been paying attention, they're coming into the room and like, yay, it makes it's these. I hope your families have these kind of stupid, silly traditions of some sort in them, because I think
everyone needs a few.
Yeah, every family needs something like that, and this family song is what it's like for us. But yeah, I think we've outgrown it. We need a revamp of it.
Well, some of the lyrics, we just need to redo. The tune's still lovely.
And so we end with this kind of rousing fight song to our council, and then it's done. You disperse. You came together. You became one thing in your family council. You rah rah rah, and boom. Now it's back off into kind of a more dispersed pattern.
But I wanted to say one more thing about the roast, because I really like I said, when Gary brought that up, I was like, that's a terrible idea. It's so negative. I don't want us to be that kind of family. But yeah, I've totally gone, I think, totally opposite of that now, where I like it. I think it's a good thing, because I can see that our kids, they get it and they're doing it. But even for me, it's actually really, I've been surprised how much I've enjoyed it when I've gotten feedback for me in my life, because we don't usually get feedback like that. I mean, you and I talk a lot, and we'll give each other feedback all the time. But I think that my kids know that I'm sensitive too, and so they don't want to always say things that are potentially crushing or hard. But now I kind of do enjoy it, because I'm like, okay, now I actually know what people are thinking about me. And sometimes that's nice to know, you can focus on what it is you need to be working on. So as a parent, it seems scary, but it's actually worked out well for me. I just had to say that just because I can't tell you how much I was like, no, I don't want that. You remember that? I mean, I was just like...
Yeah, and Christian, he echoes that idea. Roast does sound like a terrible idea from the initial sound of it.
It really does
but
sound
when you
terrible.
explain it sounds great. Hopefully my family's thought was you guys do.
Oh, that's nice. But
one thing to point out about this, too, is that this kind of thing arises from these fundamental kind of principles that I try to espouse. Like the roast, if you can see it, is this process of bringing in that feminine breakdown or renewal, right? Of recognizing that even at a personal level, everybody needs that. And so, religions are replete with this. That's why you have these kind of weekly rituals of repentance, of confession, of things like that. It's the same principle, but it's like a family needs these kinds of sacred rituals as well. And so you find some way to bring in a workable way, that type of principle of renewal, coupled with the principle of forming people and putting them together and stuff.
Chase just asked a really good question. I think we should definitely answer it because it would help. So yeah, Chase said, does the roast ever get out of hand? Does a child want to dump all their frustrations on another sibling? One thing that really works is when we ask the one kid that's going to be roasted to leave, everyone then kind of talks about things together. And as parents especially, we can help say, be a little bit of a referee.
Well, and the whole family has to agree
on
it. So people throw out stuff. Oh, Kira's been bugging me in this way this week.
Or like,
she did
oh,
this.
Yeah.
And then we realize, but that's a little bit more between you two. That's not like her biggest flaw.
Yeah, we try to bring up things that everyone's like, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And makes sense to bring in a family. And we can see that kind of feedback to that person will be constructive and not just like, I hate the color of this person's hair. It's like, well, that doesn't even matter, What matters is something in your relationship that we could be working on. Yeah,
so it's another reason why it works, because when the person comes in, they know that the whole family has agreed on this thing. There's an agreeance of 9 other people that says, yes, you need to work on this, and that's power.
And in a way, it helps our kids, as we kind of go through this practice, it helps our kids recognize ways to critique other people. Mm-hmm. That still sounds uncomfortable to me because I don't like that. I don't like to be a critical person, but it does help our kids to see how to constructively think about other people's flaws, too. So, that helps. Because I could see how that could get out of hand if you just let it go any which way.
Yeah, and again, but that brings in the principle, everything we've done, we observe and change. We're always watching what we're doing, feeling it out. Is this helping? Is this not? If it's not, it goes the way of the wind. If it is, we try to make it even better. So that, all
That's
together
the family council.
is the family council. I hope you saw through it the principles that I brought out in the beginning of kind of the way of that this helps in ordering your family, but also breaking down your family in the ways that then leave the space for new growth and new change, because those are the 2 principles that need to exist out in the world for development, for growth. And that's what we want our family to do, is to grow and develop as a living being, because we see our family as that. Like you were even talking before this of kind of what is the spirit of our family. What is the spirit of our family? Masculine? Is it feminine? As a whole, does it have that foregrounded or backgrounded? Anyway, because we've come to think more and more as our family as a living, breathing organism, more than just some grouping of separate individuals that just kind of some arbitrary grouping of separate individuals. So anyway, that's it. Do you have any last
I mean, I guess it's just the only other thing that I maybe want to add is that sometimes it seems hard to have to be so talking about so many of these things and doing all of these things, because like when I grew up in my family, I didn't feel the need to have this many things spelled out or understood. But it's just amazing, especially how the world's changing a lot and our kids are influenced by so many things. Really having this time to get together and talk so explicitly about things in our family helps our kids realize how important our family is to us, how it should be important to them. Hopefully it will help them carry on in their own families. Yeah. So.
And that brought up one more thing to point out, and that's that how much this is directed towards the future, because we're trying to make this family council about developing the kind of skills that will help our family still be a family later, in the sense that, in the future, when our families are adults and have their own kids, we still want to, on some sort of regular basis, whether it's even just annually or something, have a family council where all these skills come back in. But it will be much more of a thing, kind of like an Arthur, in the round table. Whereas right now with our kids, because we are so much more developed, you could say, than them, there is still a sense that we're the king and the queen, and sometimes we do have to lay down, this is how it is. Yeah. But as our kids become capable individuals that hopefully exceed us in capability, that's the whole plan, right, of having families and family progress, that then this family council becomes, something more like Arthur and the Round Table, where we're just kind of maybe the first among equals.
Right.
But we've developed these skills over time to really, like, now is this grand family of, hopefully many, many dozens of individuals forming into this greater things. Think of what, that many people focused on things could accomplish in the world. Like, it's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
So with that, that's what we have to say about that. And thank you for being on here, everyone. We'll be back on Monday through basically all of May with these live streams, in as much as that was my commitment, and it's to challenge me to put out ideas out there. But I've made the commitment that next week, by the end of it, Interstellar in its final form will be done. I've been saying it for years.
He's been saying this for years.
Yeah, so
it's been on his mind for years.
Hold me to it. She'll hold me to it.
Well, I've been like, you have to do this. He even started talking about doing another movie, and I'm like, no, you have to finish this.
And hopefully it will be worth it. It contains a lot of, I think it's a grand vehicle for a lot of the thought that I think is some of the things that, are helpful ideas or principles out there that, hopefully will be helpful out in the world today. So
absolutely.
With that, thank you again. And this is Gary and Sarah signing off from Mission Top.